Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's classic of a Monday Night Football game between the Ravens and the Browns. Then I'm going to go over the college basketball scores from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's games. NBA preseason thus far. I'm going to look at all the results and look ahead to tonight a little bit. NBA point guard rankings as we are a week away from the season. NFL power rankings for the week. We are going to save that actually for tomorrow's show. And my best bet of the day. All right, we're going to start with the NFL Monday Night Football. An absolute classic, as I mentioned a couple seconds ago. Ravens over the Browns, 47-42. For those who had the Browns plus the 3 or 3.5, that was probably as bad as a beat that you could possibly have. The Ravens perhaps saved their season. They improved to 8-5. Cleveland drops to 9-4. Lamar Jackson, 11-17, 163 yards and a touchdown. And 9 carries and 124 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. And Lamar Jackson left the game for a little while because he had some cramp issues. Trace McSorley came in and was terrible, 1 of 4 for 13 yards. And then Lamar comes back for the Browns and saves the day. Baker Mayfield, 28 of 47, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So Baker is just tremendous in that game despite his team losing. And like I said, it was an all-time classic for a Monday Night Football game. It was the best game of 2020 in terms of the NFL regular season. And I don't even know what you could say is the second best game we've had all year, but that was certainly the best game we've had all season long. Now we'll move on to college basketball. We had a short slate yesterday. We'll look back on last night's results and look ahead to tonight's games, which is a much bigger slate. LSU over Sam Houston State, 88-66. Youngstown State over West Virginia Tech, 80-66. Central Michigan over St. Francis, Illinois, 91-39. Number 19 Rutgers over Maryland, 74-60. Presbyterian over Carver, 85-46. Morehead State over Eastern Kentucky, 75-62. Radford over Longwood, 67-66. Texas Rio Grande over Texas A&M International, 89-51. William & Mary over George Washington, 85-84 in overtime. McNeese over Arlington Baptist, 110-64. Colorado State over Northern Arizona, 91-52. Ole Miss over Central Arkansas, 68-54. Austin Peay over McKendree, 82-68. Marquette over Creighton, 89-84. That was a pretty big upset. Marquette over number 9 Creighton. Nevada over San Diego, 79-72. That was my best bet. That came through. Best bet's actually been pretty hot lately. And Colorado over Northern Colorado, 81-45. All right. Tonight's slate, as I mentioned a couple seconds ago, is a much, much bigger slate. Point Park and Stony Brook at 1 o'clock. We can skip. St. Bonaventure and Akron at 2 o'clock. I have Akron projected as a 2.5-point favorite over St. Bonaventure. And St. Bonaventure's favored by 5.5 over Akron. So give me Akron plus the 5.5, and it's valuable at minus 105. Houston Baptist against Rice at 3 o'clock. I project Rice as a 13.5-point favorite. Meanwhile, Rice is favored by 14.5. 1 point off, we'll go to the total. I'm going to take over 156.5. Juices on it, though, at minus 115. Chicago State over Illinois State. Or I should say Chicago State, Illinois State. I'm not picking Chicago State over Illinois State because Chicago State stinks. I project Illinois State by 19, the favorite by 21.5. I'm not betting on Chicago State. If anything, I'll take... This is a hard one because Chicago State's more of an under team. They're a bad offensive team, but a bad defensive team, too. I'm going to take the over. I'm kidding. I'm going to take the under 142.5. And it's slim juice at minus 112. Bethel, Tennessee, Tennessee Martin canceled. 5 o'clock, ESPN 3. Stanford and Cal State Northridge. I project Stanford by 30. Stanford's favored by 15.5. I'm going to lay to 15.5 with Stanford. And it's heavy juice at minus 118. St. Francis Brooklyn against Central Connecticut State. I project St. Fran Brooklyn by 10.5. Meanwhile, St. Fran Brooklyn's only favored by 1.5. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with St. Fran Brooklyn. Detroit Mercy, Kentucky postponed. 5:30 Buffalo at Miami of Ohio. I project Buffalo by 16.5. Meanwhile, Buffalo is favored by only 2.5. I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Buffalo. 6 o'clock, Carver, Georgia Southern, we can skip. Longwood, Radford. I project Radford by 6.5. Meanwhile, Radford is giving 4.5. I'm going to lay to 4.5 with Radford against Longwood. Next up, you got Coastal Carolina against Wofford. I project Wofford by 5. And Wofford is giving 5.5. So I'm going to have to go to the total at 147.5, and I'm going to take the over. Sunbelt and SoCon are overs. So I'm going to take over 147.5, although there's juice on it and minus 114. Cocker and High Point canceled. 6:30 Clemson, number 24 Clemson against Virginia Tech. Clemson deserves to be ranked, guys. They're good. I project them by 6 against Virginia Tech, and they're 1.5 point underdogs. Oh, this is your classic Vegas knows something that you don't game. I'm taking Clemson anyway, plus the 1.5. Heavy juice at minus 120. Clemson's just minus 102 to win straight up. But I think Clemson, but this isn't going to be my best bet because this is, to me, the classic Vegas knows something that you don't potential. All right, next up at 7 o'clock, you have Appalachian State against number 10 Tennessee. I project Tennessee by 28 points. Meanwhile, Tennessee is favored by 18.5 points. So I'm going to lay to 18.5 with Tennessee. Juice is on it at minus 118. Minnesota at number 13 Illinois on ESPN 2. I project the Illinois by 16. The Illinois are only favored by 8.5. I'm going to lay the 8.5 with Illinois, and there's value there at minus 104. Gardner-Webb, East Tennessee State. I project East Tennessee State by 5. And East Tennessee State's favored by 12.5. I'm going to take the 12.5 with Gardner-Webb, and there's value there at minus 105. Hofstra, Monmouth. That line's obviously not on FanDuel because Monmouth's in New Jersey. I project Hofstra by 7, and there's no line out for this game yet. Texas Southern against Auburn. I project Auburn by 1.5. Meanwhile, Auburn is giving 13.5. I'm going to take plus 13.5 with Texas Southern at minus 115. Wichita State and Tulsa on ESPNU tonight. I project Wichita State by 2.5. Meanwhile, Tulsa is the team with the minus next to it. They are giving 1.5. I'm going to take Wichita State plus the 1.5 at minus 105 and plus 110 to win the game straight up. New Orleans against Louisiana. I project Louisiana by 9.5. Meanwhile, Louisiana is giving 11.5. So I'm going to take New Orleans plus the 11.5 against Louisiana. Next up is Charlotte-Davidson. I project Davidson by 15. Davidson's giving 11.5, so I'm going to lay to 11.5 with Davidson. South Carolina State Liberty. I project Liberty by a whopping 32. They're favored by 24.5. I'm going to lay to 24.5 with Liberty. FAU against Stetson. I project Stetson by 5.5. Meanwhile, Stetson is a 3.5-point underdog. I'm going to take that. Heavy juice, though, at minus 118. On the money line, they're plus 136. South Carolina upstated against UNC Greensboro. I project Greensboro by a whopping 21.5. Meanwhile, I don't see a line for this game on FanDuel, which is odd. And ESPN has it Greensboro by 18.5. So I'm going to lay it with Greensboro. CU Hattiesburg and VMI we could skip. Western Carolina VCU. I project VCU by 8.5. VCU is giving 15.5. I'm taking plus 15.5 with Western Carolina, although heavy juice at minus 114. Utah Valley in Utah. I project Utah by 14.5. Meanwhile, Utah's giving 17.5. I'm going to take Utah Valley State plus a 17.5 at a valuable minus 104 against Utah. Southeast Missouri State in Evansville. I project Evansville by 7. Meanwhile, Evansville's giving 2.5, so I'm going to lay to 2.5 with Evansville at slight juice at minus 112. Southeast Louisiana against Texas A&M. I project A&M by 29. Meanwhile, A&M is giving 22.5. So I'm going to lay to 22.5 with Texas A&M. Bethesda, UC Riverside, Wagner, Mount St. Mary's, and Fairleigh Dickinson, St. Francis, Pennsylvania, all either canceled or postponed. 7:30, Arlington Baptist and McNeese. Jackson State and Louisiana Tech, I project La Tech by 15.5. Meanwhile, Louisiana Tech is favored in this game by 14.5. So, 1 point off. Go to the total, 136.5. I'm going to take the under at minus 114. Texas A&M, Texarkana, and Little Rock postponed. 8 o'clock, Loyola Chicago against number 12, Wisconsin. I project Wisconsin by 15 in this game. Meanwhile, Wisconsin is only laying 8.5. I'm going to lay 8.5 with Wisconsin against Loyola Chicago. Transylvania, Murray State, and College of Idaho in Portland we could skip. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and North Texas. I project North Texas by a whopping 39. Meanwhile, North Texas is favored by 23.5. I'm going to lay to 23.5 with North Texas at a valuable minus 104. Trevecca and Lipscomb we could skip. Bacone College and Oral Roberts we can skip too. Southern Miss against Lamar. I project Lamar by 3.5. Well, Lamar's favored by 3.5. So I have to go with the total 132.5. I'm going to take the over here at minus 114. I think it's a smart play, and I wouldn't mind juicing it a little bit there with the minus 114. A&M Corpus Christi against Texas State. I project the Bobcats by 24. And they're favored by 11.5. And I'm going to lay the 11.5, although it's very heavy juice at minus 120. Georgia Tech and Florida State. Number 15, Florida State. I project Florida State by 9.5. Meanwhile, Florida State is favored by 8.5. So I am 1 point off with this one. So I'm going to go to the total, 141.5, and I'm going to take the under at minus 114. And if I didn't mention that earlier, that is one of two games in the 8:30 window. The other being Florida A&M against Austin Peay. Austin Peay is projected by me as a 22.5 point favorite. Meanwhile, Austin Peay is laying 12.5. I'm going to lay the 12.5 with Austin Peay at a very juiced minus 118. 9 o'clock window now. Pac-12 Network, Long Beach State against UCLA. I project the Bruins by 38.5. Meanwhile, the Bruins are only giving 23.5. I'm going to lay the 23.5 at UCLA against Long Beach State. Sagu AIC against Grand Canyon, we can skip. Furman, Alabama, I project Alabama by 2. They're giving 5.5. I'm going to take plus 5.5 of Furman against Alabama. Plus 205 on the money line, which is enticing too, but I think Bama wins this game close. Kansas State, Iowa State, I project Kansas State as a 2.5 point underdog. Meanwhile, they're a 7.5 point underdog, and I'm going to take it. Everyone, their brother's going to take Iowa State because of how bad Kansas State's been in non-con play. So I'm going to take Kansas State plus 2, plus the 7.5 to keep that game somewhat close in the Big 12 opener. UCF Houston, Corbin Seattle, Eastern Oregon, Idaho State, and Dixie State, Utah State all either canceled or postponed. And last but not least, 10 o'clock, you have Eastern Washington and St. Mary's. I project St. Mary's by 15.5, throwing 8.5, and I'm going to lay the 8.5 with St. Mary's in this spot against a solid Eastern Washington team. Now I'm going to look back at the NBA preseason games from the last couple of days. We're going to start with Friday night. Knicks over the Pistons, 90-84. RJ Barrett had 15, Sadiq Bey had 14. Magic over the Hawks, 116-112. Nikola Vucevic had 18, DeAndre Hunter had 18. Rockets over the Bulls, 125-104. Bruno Caboclo had 17, Kobe White had 15. Lakers over the Clippers, 87-81. Paul George had 10, Taylor Horton Tucker had 19. Blazers over the Kings, 127-102. Carmelo Anthony had 21, Buddy Hield had 23. Saturday, Raptors over the Hornets, 111-100. Matt Thomas had 16, Miles Bridges had 12. Cavaliers over the Pacers, 107-104. C.D. Osman had 23. Domantas Sabonis had 16. Thunder over the Spurs, 121-108. Theo Maledon had 20, and Patty Mills had 24. Mavericks over the Bucks, 112-102. Maxi Kleber had 13, and Giannis had 25. Grizzlies over the Timberwolves, 107-105. John Moran had 20. Jalen Noel had 22. Warriors over the Nuggets, 107-105. Kent Bazemore had 13. Nikola Jokic had 26. And Jazz over the Suns, 119-105. Jordan Clarkson had 19. Langston Galloway had 17. Sunday, Pistons over the Knicks, 99-91. Sekou Doumbouya had 23, and RJ Barrett had 25. Hawks over the Magic, 116-107. Trae Young had 21. Markelle Fultz had 21. Nets over the Wizards, 119-114. Kyrie Irving had 18. Rui Hachimura had 18. Bulls over the Rockets, 104-91. Zach LaVine had 23. John Wall had 21. Lakers over the Clippers, 131-106. Taylor Horton Tucker had 33. Lou Williams had 12. Kings over the Blazers, 121-106. Kyle Guy had 14. Harry Giles had 19. Last night, Cavs over the Pacers, 116-106. Dante Exum had 23. Domantas Sabonis had 18. Raptors over the Hornets, 112-109. Fred VanVleet had 23. Terry Rozier had 15. Pels over the Heat, 114-92. Zion had 26. Tyler Herro had 17. Mavs over the Bucks, 128-112. Luka Doncic had 27. Giannis had 24. Grizzlies over the Timberwolves, 123-104. Jonas Valanciunas had 22. D'Angelo Russell had 19. Jazz over the Suns, 111-92. Bojan Bogdanovic, 18. Devin Booker, 27. Today's preseason slate, 3 games. 7 o'clock TNT 76ers against the Celtics. So Doc Rivers against the Celtics in the preseason game. 8 o'clock Spurs Rockets. Word is that James Harden's supposed to play. And at 10 o'clock TNT Warriors Kings. So Stephen Curry against De'Aaron Fox. Now I'm going to do my NBA point guard rankings. This was a pretty interesting list to put together. I think I did this last year and the year before, I have a whopping 88 point guards on this list. So I'm going to go from 88 to 1. So without further ado, here we go. 88, Paul Watson, Raptors. 87, Jordan McLaughlin, Timberwolves. 86, Saban Lee, Pistons. 85, Grant Riller, Hornets. 84, Brandon Goodwin, Hawks. 83, Nigel Williams, Goss, Jazz. 82, Emmanuel Quickley, Knicks. 81, Campaign, Suns. 80, Raul Naito, Jazz. 79, Ryan Arcidiacono, Bulls. 78, Jalen Adams, Bucks. 77, Chris Clemens, Rockets. 76, Carson Edwards, Celtics. 75, Marcus Howard, Nuggets. 74, Shaquille Harrison, Jazz. 73, Devin Dotson, Bulls. 72, Trey Jones, Spurs. 71, Cassius Winston, Wizards. 70, Nuko Mannion, Warriors, my bad. 69, Malachi Flynn, Raptors. 68, Peyton Pritchard, Celtics. 67, Tyrell Terry, Mavericks. 66, Tyrese Maxey, 76ers. 65, Cole Anthony, Magic. 64, Jeff Teague, Celtics. 63, Brad Wanamaker, Warriors. 62, Dennis Smith Jr., Knicks. 61, Frank Ntilikina, Knicks. 60, Quinn Cook, Lakers. 59, Thomas Satoransky, Bulls. 58, Ty Jerome, Thunder. 57, Killian Hayes, Pistons. 56, Kira Lewis Jr., Pelicans. 55, Tyus Jones, Grizzlies. 54, Dante Exum, Cavaliers. 53, TJ McConnell, Pacers. 52, Corey Joseph, Kings. 51, DJ Augustine, Bucks. 50, Trey Burke, Mavericks. 49, Matthew Dellavedova, Cavaliers. 48, Patty Mills, Spurs. 47, Michael Carter-Williams, Magic. 46, Reggie Jackson, Clippers. 45, Ish Smith, Wizards. 44, Alfred Payton, Knicks. 43, DeAnthony Melton, Grizzlies. 42, Alex Caruso, Lakers. 41, Aaron Holiday, Pacers. 40, Darius Garland, Cavaliers. 39, Bruce Brown, Nets. 38, LaMelo Ball, Hornets. 37, Jalen Brunson, Mavericks. 36, George Hill, Thunder. 35, Rajon Rondo, Hawks. 34, Austin Rivers, Knicks. 33, Fernie Simmons, Blazers. 32, Markelle Fultz, Magic. 31, Shake Milton, 76ers. 30, Kendrick Nunn, Heat. 29, Kobe White, Bulls. 28, Monte Morris, Nuggets. 27, Tyrese Halliburton, Kings. 26, Patrick Beverley, Clippers. 25, Derrick Rose, Pistons. 24, Dennis Schroeder, Lakers. 23, Spencer Dinwiddie, Nets. 22, Ricky Rubio, Timberwolves. 21, John Wall, Rockets. 20, Mike Conley, Jazz. 19, Goran Dragic, Heat. 18, Lonzo Ball, Pelicans. 17, DeJounte Murray, Spurs. 16, Malcolm Brogdon, Pacers. 15, Kyle Lowry, Raptors. 14, D'Angelo Russell, Timberwolves. 13, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Thunder. 12, Kemba Walker, Celtics. 11, Drew Holiday, Bucks. 10, De'Aaron Fox, Kings. 9, Jamal Murray, Nuggets. 8, Chris Paul, Suns. 7, Kyrie Irving, Nets. 6, Trae Young, Hawks. 5, John Morant, Grizzlies. 4, Ben Simmons, 76ers. 3, Russell Westbrook, Wizards. 2, Damian Lillard, Blizzards. And number 1, back and healthier than ever, Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, obviously last year barely played due to an injury, but he's still Stephen Curry, and he's still very entertaining and fun to watch. The Warriors are nothing without him, and he is going to keep that Warriors team relevant this season without Klay Thompson. I know ESPN had Damian Lillard ahead of Curry, but as far as I'm concerned, Stephen Curry is still a 3-time NBA champion. Damian Lillard has never made the NBA Finals. So Stephen Curry, to me, is my top point guard coming into the 2020-2021 NBA season. And now my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. There's some good ones for college basketball that I really liked tonight. And the one that is the pick for tonight is... The pick is going to be Illinois minus 8.5 against Minnesota. Very valuable number at minus 104. Illinois is one of the best teams in college basketball. I'm not a big believer in this Minnesota team, but I'm just getting a lot of value here with Illinois at this number. So I'm going to lay the number 8.5 with Illinois against Minnesota as my best bet for the day. So that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping all the college basketball and NBA preseason and looking ahead to tomorrow. I'm going to go over the college football playoff rankings as this is going to be the last Tuesday night ranking of the season before the big one on Sunday. I'm going to do my NFL power rankings for week 15. So, anything else in the world of sports pop culture, I'll have it for you on the podcast. And obviously tomorrow's the Masked Singer finale as well, so we'll preview that as well. I hope you guys have a fabulous day, everyone.